The Senate Committee on Government Affairs will come to order. Mr. Secretary, please call roll.
Vice Chair Orenshaw. Senator Goycochea. Senator Daly. Senator Krasner. Chair Flores.
Present. Please let the record reflect all members are present. We have a quorum. Good afternoon. Welcome all to the very hardworking Committee on Government Affairs. Just quickly, I want to remind everybody to please silence your cell phones. I am doing so myself now. I also want to remind you, particularly those of you who will be testifying, to please provide your business card to our committee staff should we need to reach back out to you for clarification on anything or if we have any issues with minutes. I want to remind folk that you can always provide written testimony to our committee staff and they will make sure it gets uploaded to that appropriate bill. In the interest of time and to ensure that everybody gets an opportunity to be heard, but also so that we are transparent and clear, we will be limiting testimony in support, opposition, and neutral to 2 minutes. We'll be timing it as you're speaking. Should you surpass 2 minutes, please don't take it as a sign of disrespect if I cut you off. Know that if you have testimony that exceeds 2 minutes, you can always provide that to our committee staff. They'll make sure it gets uploaded. I also want to make sure that everybody's aware that we have Senator Rosen who will be addressing the legislature today, and we all have been requested to be present on the floor by 4:45 p.m. I anticipate that that will likely fall right in between our committee meeting, unless everybody keeps the remarks super short. It's on you. But just putting it out there, a quick ditto, I agree or I disagree, is more than enough. Assuming that it does go beyond, we hit that 4:45 mark, what I'll do is I'll recess and we'll go and listen to the remarks by our senator, and then we'll come back. But I just wanted to make sure everybody understood that, because I know particularly some folk were hoping to be in and out and or might have other places they need to be. Unfortunately, that just is the nature of the legislature presently. We have 3 bills. We'll start off with Senate Bill 51, and then we'll move on to the additional 2 bills that will be presented by our very own Senator Daly. So with that, I hope everybody has it somewhat clear how we'll be proceeding for today, and I am very grateful to our staff for being so helpful, and hopefully we don't keep them here too long. So that's on you all again. With that, I'd like to open up the hearing on Senate Bill 51.
Good afternoon, Chair Flores and committee. I'm Shelley Caparo with Chem for Kroll, representing Nye County on Senate Bill 51. When Senate Bill 51 was introduced, it was a Nye County bill, but it was always the intention that it would be working with all counties and NACO, the Nevada Association of Counties. The purpose of SB 51 is to keep the county commission salaries reasonably competitive, and they have not been adjusted since 2018. So with me today presenting SB 51 is Vince Guthrie with NACO, and he's going to go over the details of the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Shelley. For the record, my name is Vincent Guthreau. Last name is spelled Guthreau. First name is Vincent, Vinson. I do serve as the Executive Director for the Nevada Association of Counties, or NACO. All of our members are all 17 of Nevada's counties. So thank you, Chair Flores and members of the Senate Committee on Government Affairs for allowing me the opportunity to present the amendment, which you should all have on Nellis. And just thank you again for allowing me to explain this amendment. If adopted, it provides for 3 major outcomes, which I want to take an opportunity to explain. So first off, the amendment allows for an initial 20% increase in base salaries in effect on January 1st of 2024. Let me just provide a little bit of context for the initial increase. As Shelley mentioned, the last time salaries were previously adjusted was in 2018, and we consider this an immediate catch-up provision, and that would reflect a 3.33% annual increase. Number 2, subsequent adjustments to county commissioner salaries would then be based on salary increases approved by this body to the classified state worker compensation. Third, we are bringing this amendment so that it applies to all counties, which we believe brings equity to local government compensation adjustments. And for the fourth piece I wanted to highlight, because we cannot, I guess, predict the future, including significant global economic changes or any event that might cause a steep decline in local government revenues, there's an opt-out provision, so allowing by a majority of vote for the Board of County Commissioners to approve a lesser salary. So these are the major provisions of the amendment that is before you. We believe this reflects a maturing of how local government salary adjustments should be handled as our counties become larger in population, our communities become more diverse, local government officials are being asked on a daily basis to handle and govern more complicated issues. And the truth is that making county commissioner salaries competitive helps what we'd call broaden the talent pool for folks running for elected offices. We're faced with term limits, which complicates that pool, and finding quality candidates is, of course, of most importance for us. With the passage of this amendment and SB 51, we have an opportunity to remove the barrier for running for office. Thank you for the opportunity to present this amendment, and with that, I would stand for questions.
And thank you for your presentation. Members, any questions? Senator Goycochea, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'll be as brief as I can. All right, I just want to make sure I understand your amendment. So technically, you take a county that's at 31,000. All right, with this, even when this bill passes, they can elect not to take the increase even in the bill, or do they have to take the 20%?
For the record, Vincent Guthro, through you, Mr. Chair, to Senator Goycochea. That is correct. So the bill offers a 20%, like I said, what we consider a catch-up provision, but by a majority vote of the Board of County Commissioners, they can opt out of that or select something lower.
Okay, and then the 12.5% annual COLA that it can go up, they can also opt not to include that at their.
Vincent Guthro, for the record, that is correct.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Senator Daly, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And so first of all, I think the approach here is going to work, and I just want to make sure I understood what you said correctly. So the way I read it, it's going to be a 20% increase, but if you amortize it over the years since the last raise, it comes out to the 3% is, or roughly about the 3% increase per year if it had been applied. Is that what I heard you say?
Mr. Guthro, or Vincent Guthro, for the record, through you, Chair Flores, to Senator Daly. That's correct. I just wanted to give a little bit of context because I know that can be a bit of a shocking number. But if we amortize it over, it's 3.33% per year.
And I support, I look at the numbers on the county commission, so I support and think that we need to have this a little more, we need to catch up, and then we need to have it go forward the way you have it. So appreciate it. Thanks.
Members, any additional questions? Senator Goycochea, please.
Yes, thank you, and I appreciate the bill, and clearly the way I look at it, it's clearly enabling because it does allow a Board of County Commissioners to, their budgets are in the process right now. You know, they might not be able to, if you had 5 counties and, you know, it could be $100,000 impact on some of these smaller counties. Like I say, it's completely enabling. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Members, any additional questions? Seeing none? Oh, Senator Krasner, please.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. So my colleague said it's enabling for the 20% raise now, but the bill does ask that in the future, all county commissions would be able to give themselves raises. Is that correct?
Through you, Mr. Chair, Vincent Guthro, for the record. So to clarify, the board of county commissioners would have to vote to opt out. So in that sense, yes, it is enabling. And what we're doing with salaries moving forward is that we're tying them to approved COLA adjustments for state workers. That's similar to language that's out there in similar bills that are being considered by this body.
Okay, I'm sorry. So going forward, all county commissions would be able to give themselves raises, yes or no?
For the record, Vincent Guthro, through you, Chair, to Senator Krasner, that it's a little bit of a nuanced of an answer. They don't vote to give the raise. The raise is tied to adjustments to classified state worker salaries that this legislative body would consider. If that salary is increased, the local county commission salary would increase accordingly. Is that Does that answer your question? So secondly to that, this is where the nuance comes in. They can vote to not take that raise. Does that help? Does that answer your question?
Or otherwise, they get automatic raises going
Correct.
forward.
That is correct. Vincent
Okay.
Guthrie, for the record, that is accurate.
Senator Goicoechea, please.
And I really, I don't want to believe, I'm just kind of concerned, okay, now we've got the ability here for county commissioners and the 12.5%. What are we doing for the other elected officials? I'd hate to be a county commissioner and say, okay, I'm going to give myself 20% because we brought the bill, and then I've got 12.5 going forward. The other elected officials are not going to be happy. Are we going to address them at all? That was in the Nye County bill, at least the salary structure was. Are we going to address the other elected officials at all?
For the record, Vincent Guthrie, that is not actually in the original bill. This bill was solely presented by Nye County to address county commissioner salaries. And that's why the amendment does that too, just keeping in the spirit with the original bill, if that makes sense.
Okay, I just want to be able to know what to tell my clerk treasurer's home. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you both for the presentation. I'll invite you both to sit back.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd like to invite those wishing to testify in support of Senate Bill 51, Carson City or Las Vegas, to please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. For the record, Mary Walker, representing Douglas, Lyon, and Story counties. We do rise in support of SB 51, and we also are in support of having an opt-out provision. So thank you very much.
And thank you for joining us. Anyone else wishing to testify in support of Senate Bill 51? Seeing none, BPS, is anybody wishing to join us on the phone in support of Senate Bill 51?
If you would like to testify in support of SB 51, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you. BPS will stay on the phone. Anyone wishing to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 51?
If you would like to testify in opposition to SB 51, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you. And is there anybody wishing to testify in opposition, Carson City or Las Vegas? Please come forward.
My name is Caroline Logue, Carolene Logue, resident taxpayer, and in opposition to this bill. We have been a citizen board of commissioners and town boards throughout Nye County. Minimal types of compensation for the majority of those representatives. They're elected to represent the citizens and not expected to have a high degree of expertise other than their willingness to do what's right for the community. There's a concern that they become an employee of the county rather than a citizen representative. We would like to keep them that way, not allowing salaries to go to the point where they can basically live on those salaries, and also that the rural communities have very many needs, and they expect the representatives to understand those needs and respect that the citizens should come first. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Please.
Hi, I'm Candace Hunt, Candace. Last name is Hunt, and I'm also from Nye County. And I'm in opposition to this, particularly tying the COLA increase to a full-time state employee for a very part-time position as a county commissioner. I do not agree with that, and I do not think it's valid.
And thank you for joining us. Anyone else wishing to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 51? Seeing none in Carson City or Las Vegas, and I know we don't have anybody over the phone, we will now go to the neutral position. BPS, do we have anybody wishing to join us in the neutral position for Senate Bill 51?
If you would like to testify in neutral for SB 51, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
And is there anybody here in Carson City or Las Vegas wishing to testify in the neutral position? Seeing none, I'd like to please invite our bill presenters back. Any closing remarks you may have?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks to the committee for hearing the bill. I'll just make one point. The reason why NACO brought the amendment to provide for the opt-out provision is exactly that, so that local officials can respond to the needs of their communities. So again, we appreciate you hearing the bill, and thank you for your time.
And thank you for joining us. With that, we'll go ahead and close out the hearing on Senate Bill 51. And I just wanted to let folk know that Senator Daley had to make some additional copies. I believe there is an issue with the amendment as posted. So just for the sake of clarity, they're going to make a couple copies there. Perfect. So then with that, we'll open up the hearing on Senate Bill 83, which revises provisions governing the confidentiality of personal information of certain civilian employees of law enforcement agencies. Good afternoon. Welcome back. This is your committee now. I think you live here, Mr. McCann. Whenever you're ready.
So, thank you, Mr. Chair. Skip Daly representing Senate District 13, here to help just give him moral support for Senate Bill 83. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Mr. McCann, and he'll give you all the information you need because he's the expert on this one.
Afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, staff. My name is Rick McCann, Nevada Association of Public Safety Officers, and a member of the Nevada Law Enforcement Coalition. Yes, calm down, I'm back again. First, I got people back there laughing. First, I wish to thank Senator Daley for his support of the bill. He's always been a fine supporter of the working individuals, particularly those in law enforcement, and we thank him again for this. Existing law permits certain classifications of persons to seek removal of their personal information, which would be their home address of their spouse or their children, phone numbers, email addresses, and the like, from certain records of county and state agencies. That's already there. Among those classifications included in these existing laws are persons whose jobs, generally, may involve interaction with the public, and perhaps subject them to potential harm by virtue of their job duties, such as judges, law enforcement officers, district attorneys, public defenders, child welfare service workers, among others. This SB 83 before you seeks to include civilian employees who are providing support services to a law enforcement agency, such as crime scene investigators, dispatchers, abuse and neglect specialists, cold case investigators, etc. These persons can also be subject to potential harm from bad guys as a result of the performance of their duties. Section 1 includes civilian law enforcement employees and records maintained by the county recorders. Section 2 of the bill includes civilian law enforcement employees in records maintained by county assessors. Section 3 of the bill includes civilian law enforcement employees in records maintained by the Secretary of State. And Section 4 of the bill includes civilian law enforcement employees in records maintained by the Department of Motor Vehicles. Civilian law enforcement employees are vital to the services provided by law enforcement to our communities, and they need to be protected against a simple click of a button on the internet that can identify their home addresses, their spouses, their children, just as many other professions and persons in their professional capacities are protected under current state law. Now, as an aside, I know that either this committee and or other committees on the other house have heard bills similar to this, in which other individual groups have tried to get into this same stuff. I have two very basic responses. Number one, I don't care. And number two, ours is a better bill. So everybody needs to come to this bill. So I'm putting out the encouragement for everybody to come to this bill. That way you can do one session, one work session, and get it all done. For these reasons, we ask for your support of SB 83. Thank you.
With that, members, any questions? Vice Chair, please.
Thank you very much, Senator Daly, for bringing the bill. Thank you, Mr. McCann, for walking us through it. My question is, right now, for civilian employees of a law enforcement agency, is there any way, if their safety is in jeopardy, any way for them to seek confidentiality, or would this bill be the only way to try to make that happen by changing the NRS?
Rick McCann, for the record, through the chair. Thank you for the question, Senator. This bill would give them the option to do so, just like all the other groups. They have the option to, for lack of a better term, petition those particular agencies to ask for their information. It would not be an automatic, but they can seek to do so. I'm not familiar with other options that they might have unless they pursue a court order or something of that nature.
Thank you, Mr. McCann. Thank you, Chair.
Members, any additional questions? I hope the answer is no, but just for clarification, this is us acting out of an abundance of caution, but there isn't a scenario where unfortunately something in fact did occur that then made us realize, wait a minute, we're inadvertently not capturing these folk. Let's make sure that that doesn't happen again.
Rick McCann, for the record, thank you for the question, Mr. Chairman. You've got some people in Las Vegas, I think, are going to testify from the civilian employee group for Metro. Got some people behind me, I think, who might, if they have some anecdotal references, I'm sure they'll share them as much as they can with you. I'm not personally familiar with those, so I'm willing to say it's out of an abundance of caution, but I think it's a damn good abundance of caution, even if we are not looking at situations that have happened to date. But I would leave it to them to bring that to your attention if they can.
Understood. Thank you. And with that, I'd like to invite both of you to sit back, please. And I'd like to invite those wishing to testify in support of Senate Bill 83 to please come forward. We will start here in Carson City, and then we'll move to Las Vegas. Whoever wishes to go first, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Alberto Gonzalez, Gonzalec. I'm Vice President for Communication Workers of America, Local 9413. And it is a coincidence that I find here myself. A lifetime ago, in a very far away place, I was law enforcement. My information was leaked, and I lost some family members due to that. And that's why I ended up moving to Las Vegas 21 years ago. I lived in anonymity for a long time, so finding this bill today was, a throwback to the past. So I urge you, please vote yes on it. We support it 100%. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairman Flores and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Susie Martinez, and I am the Executive Secretary Treasurer of the Nevada State AFL-CIO. And on behalf of over 150,000 members and 120 unions, we are in full support of Senate Bill 83. This bill will protect civilian employees who work for law enforcement agencies by ensuring that their personal information isn't included in public records. Every worker across Nevada should be able to feel secure in their workplace and in their homes. Our hardworking civilian law work enforcement employees do an incredible job in providing critical services to our communities, and they need to be protected. I'd like to thank Senator Daly for bringing this bill forward, and I urge the committee to support Senate Bill 83. Senators, thank you for the privilege of your time.
And thank you. I was coughing. I couldn't say thank you to both of you for testifying. Thank you for being here. If we could allow those seats to be vacant so we have more folk join us, please.
Good afternoon, Chair Flores, members of the committee. My name is John Abel, spelled A-B-E-L, and I represent the Las Vegas Police Protective Association as well as PSAN, and we are in full support of SB 83. Our investigative specialists oftentimes will interview people that are accused of crimes. We live in an information age where their name could end up on a report on the internet, and then that name could be used to search for their home on the assessor's website. So for that reason, we support this bill to support and protect our civilian employees. Thank you.
And thank you. Please.
Hi, my name is Morgan Biaselli. I'm with Silver State Government Relations. I'm here representing the Las Vegas City Employees Association. LVCEA is in strong support of SB 83. Some of LVCEA's memberships include civilian employees that provide support services to law enforcement agencies in Las Vegas, specifically in the area of emergency dispatch. LVCEA has experienced instances where the sorts of protections as provided in SB 83 would help ensure the safety of those who support emergency responders in their everyday jobs. Thank you. I hope you support this bill.
And thank you for joining us, please.
Good afternoon, Chair Flores and members of the committee. I am Adrian Hunt, ADRIANHUNT. I am representing the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. We are in support of SB 83, and we want to thank Senator Daly for bringing this bill forward. At Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, we have employees who would benefit from this bill. One example is our investigative specialists. These men and women are civilians who are at the face of criminal investigations. In our Theft Crimes Bureau, investigative specialists are responsible for investigating cases that include identity theft, embezzlement, fraud, and forgery. These civilian employees interview suspects and they appear in court and testify on behalf of our agency. We support authorizing civilian law enforcement employees to obtain court orders to protect their personal information in a confidential manner. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. For the record, Mike Cathcart representing the city of Henderson. Just want to thank Senator Daly for bringing this bill. We really support giving these employees this option for privacy when needed, and we're fully supportive of this bill. Thank you.
And thank you. Please.
Thank you, Chair Flores and members of the committee. Jake McNeil for the record, JAKEMCNEILL. I'm here representing Labor's Local 169, and I'm a member of Labor's Local 169, and we're in strong support of this bill. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us, please.
Good afternoon, Chair Flores, Andy Donahue, Labor Employers Cooperation and Education Trust, supporting the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to testify in support in Carson City? Seeing none, we'll go to Las Vegas.
Good afternoon, Chairman Flores and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Kelly Richter, Kellylyricchter. I am the Vice President of LVP PACE, which is the Civilian Union for Metro, and I strongly urge the committee to vote in favor of this bill. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Please, Las Vegas.
Good afternoon, Chairman Flores, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Shane Sales, ShaneSayles. I am the Secretary representing PPACE, Las Vegas Police Protective Association for Civilian Employees. I too support SB 83 and ask for your support as well. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Anyone else in Las Vegas wishing to join us in support of Senate Bill 83? Seeing none, BPS, is there anybody wishing to join us over the phone?
If you would like to testify in support of SB 83, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Good afternoon, Chair Flores and members of the committee. My name is Michelle Maese, MICHELLE MAESE, and I'm the president of SEIU Local 1107. On behalf of our 18,000 working families, we stand in solidarity and support for Senate Bill 83. Thank you to the bill's sponsors, Senator Daley and Brother McCain, for including law enforcement civilian employees in this bill. I want to talk to you briefly about the before and after the passage of this bill and what it means to employees and families. In 2017, SEIU worked to include a total of 1,130 county employees from northern Nevada to southern Nevada who were social workers, child welfare workers, and code enforcement agents to provide them with the same opportunity to have their information become confidential. I was one of those employees. I had a worker and families show up at my house, threaten my children and my family. And as a supervisor for a child fatality and sex abuse unit for Child Protective Services, it was very scary. In 2017, our SEIU members testified to having death threats on themselves, family members, people knocking on their doors and threatening the harm of their children and family as well. Also, their information was leaked on social media. After the bill was passed for us, there was a sense of relief and increased safety not only in our workplace, but in our homes as well. There is no other way to have your information confidential without passing this bill. Believe me, we tried several ways and it didn't work. To date, we have hundreds of SEIU members who have filled out the necessary paperwork to protect our families, and they have all expressed the same sentiment that our job is worth fighting for, and so is our families, and our job is to keep the community safe as well as our families. I can only imagine that this will be how the law enforcement employees will feel. Inclusion of these employees in this bill is vital. In 2017, there were members on this committee, the Senate committee, who helped keep us safe, and we are asking that you do the same for these employees. We are in full support of SB 83, and we urge the committee to support this bill as well. Thank you for your time.
And thank you for joining us. Next caller in support of Senate Bill 83.
Good afternoon, Chairman Flores and the members of the committee. For the record, my name is Robert Sumlin, Robert Sumlin, and I'm with the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, Las Vegas, Nevada, Local Lodge SC 711. I strongly urge the committee to vote in favor of Senate Bill SB 83. Thank you.
And thank you. Next caller in support of Senate Bill 83.
Good afternoon, Chairman Flores and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Russ James with the Nevada AFL-CIO and longtime member of the Painters and Allied Trades. I'm here in full support of Senate Bill 83. I urge the committee to support the bill as well. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Next caller in support of Senate Bill 83.
Good afternoon, Chairman Flores and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Renee Ruiz, Renee. My last name is spelled Ruiz, and I'm the legislative advocate for National Nurses United, National Nurses Organizing Committee in Nevada, representing the interest of 3,000 plus RNs in the state of Nevada. And today I am here in strong support of SB 83 and urge the committee to vote in favor of SB 83. Thank you.
And thank you for calling in. Next caller in support of Senate Bill 83.
Good afternoon, Chair Flores, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Greg Herrera, Herrera, representing the Nevada Sheriffs and Chiefs Association. The Nevada Sheriffs and Chiefs Association is proud to support Senate Bill 83, and I'd like to thank Senator Daley for bringing this bill forward and Mr. McCann for the presentation and recognizing the importance of safety for our non-commissioned personnel across the state. Nevada Sheriffs and Chiefs Association would respectfully request that you join us in supporting SB 83. Thank you.
And thank you. Next caller in support of Senate Bill 83.
Good afternoon, Chairman Flores. My name is Larry Wilson, and I'm with the United Auto Workers, and we're in full support of SB 83, and we urge the committee to support the bill. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Next caller in support of Senate Bill 83.
Good afternoon, Chairman Flores and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Liz Sorensen,
That's L-I-Z. My last name is Sorenson. I'm the president of the Nevada State AFL-CIO, and I'm here today in strong support of SB 83. I urge this committee to vote in favor of SB 83 as well, and thank you to Senator Daley, and of course a great representation as well by, great presentation, I should say, by Rick McCann. Thank you to both of you.
And thank you for joining us. Next caller in support of Senate Bill 83.
Good afternoon, Chairman Flores and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Charles Zemp. That's Charles. Last name Zemp. I represent the International Union of Bricklayers and Allied Crafts Workers, and I am here to show my full support of Senate Bill 83 and ask the committee for their support as well. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Next caller in support of Senate Bill 83.
There are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
Thank you. We'll stay on the phone. Is there anyone else wishing, is there somebody wishing to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 83?
If you would like to testify in opposition to SB 83, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Is there anybody in Las Vegas or Carson City wishing to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 83? Seeing none, is there anyone wishing to testify in the neutral position for Senate Bill 83? If you could please come forward. Good afternoon, welcome.
No, there it goes. Pushed it. Shawneen Guerin, for the record, Shawnye. Last name Guerin, Garren. I'm here as the Douglas County Recorder, and I hadn't planned on testifying in neutral to the group that's being requested to be included in this bill. But I do see it as an opportunity to provide just a tiny bit of clarity that we've discussed as recorders. I don't want to speak on behalf of the Recorders Association. That wasn't planned. But I do have intimate knowledge with a couple of concerns. One is that, as was mentioned during the presentation, there's a number of these bills that have come forward again this session. And it would be very helpful to all of us, to the different offices as well, I think to the judicial offices, so that we could have a single template. If there was uniformity in the groups that are provided these protections across the different offices. The other thing too is a little bit of a deficiency that I'd like to explain. When from the recorder's office perspective, there are specific documents that are required to be set forth that may contain these elements of personally identifiable information. And at the time that we receive that order, we redact those elements within those documents. However, we're hoping to work with bill sponsors on creating more of a process for subsequent recordings to also be redacted, where in the other offices, the assessor's office, for example, it's a single set of data that just, it's click a flag and it applies to the whole record, as opposed to in the recorder's office, they're individual records that are affected. So if you refinance your home, not that anybody's rushing right out to refinance with the interest rates right now, but if you do, that refinance document, the payoff and then the subsequent mortgage, those aren't going to be redacted. So we're currently working with bill sponsors. We haven't had a chance yet to meet directly with Senator Daley, but hope to do so to get some friendly amendment language in there that will help make that a more clear and clean process moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. And I don't think there's been a session that I've been in GA where we haven't had this conversation with our recorders. There's always a large number of bills that come forth with folk trying to remove certain information. And I know it's a nightmare for you all. So I'm sure Mr. McCann can work with you and try to make your life a little bit easier. But thank you, because I know
Absolutely.
there hasn't been a session where we don't have to have this conversation.
Yeah, the biggest concern is just to make sure that there's not an assumption of protections that don't exist carrying forward. If you've gone through a certain process, you might think that that's a go forward. Within the recorder's office, that is not necessarily the case without some process written in. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Anyone else wishing to testify in the neutral position for Senate Bill 83? BPS, do we have anybody wishing to join us over the phone?
If you would like to testify in neutral for SB 83, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. There are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
Thank you. And with that, any closing remarks you may have? Thank you. And we'll go ahead and close out the hearing on Senate Bill 83. And next, we'll move to Senate Bill 82. I want to remind everybody that we are at exactly 4:12 p.m. and we have a hard stop at 4:45. And at that point, we'll have to recess to be at the floor. Senator Daly, whenever you're ready, Senate Bill 82.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Skip Daly, representing Senate District 13 in Washoe County. So sorry for the confusion, Mr. Chair. The one that was up was an earlier version, so the one that we handed out is the most current draft of the amendment. So ignore the bill as it was put up by LCB, and this is where we're at. So a little bit of background, having, until I retired last June, worked under SB 207, which was the previous bill that enacted the apprentice utilization. And we were going to try to reform that and do some things, but then talking with a variety of people, we came up with a slightly different way to do the same thing. Having worked under that and actually been in the position with the labor union, sending apprentices to the contractors, receiving the requests and various things, there was a lot of confusion and disjointed. I think more people have got to understand a little better. That part of it about making the requests and the unions dispatching is not going to change. What we are going to change is the reporting and some of the things, and spell out the penalties if you miss it. So subsection 1 on the beginning, on the first page, basically keeps what was in existence for vertical construction. You still have to use 10%. We take out the part about more than 3 workers. So we do have still a de minimis deal on when it would apply, which I'll get to a little bit later. Subsection 2 talks about horizontal construction, still remains at 3%, but removes the when it triggers. In subsection 3, existing language, Labor Commissioner would have been able to increase the percentage. So we're taking out that you can't increase the percentage on vertical work, but you still could potentially increase it 2% on horizontal work. Some people may disagree with that. Subsection 4 has no changes in existing law, where it says if you were an apprentice on a public works job and you graduated while you were on that job, you wouldn't have been able to continue in being recognized as an apprentice, but you were a journeyman for all other purposes. So section 5 is the first new section. So taking along that line, we're saying if you're an apprentice and you've graduated, that you can still be recognized as an apprentice for up to 36 months for 3 years after graduation, with a couple of caveats. And this is what we came up with because some of the unions had concerns and various things. So we said, first of all, there has to be no apprentices available. I know Mr. Hardy's probably going to come up and oppose this part of it, but you have to be signatory with the contractor because the unions are not going to send a journeyman in replace of apprentice to a contractor that's not otherwise signatory. And then C mirrors what was in 4 above. That says you're deemed a journeyman, you're deemed an apprentice for the purposes of subsection 1 and 2, but a journeyman for all other purposes. So they have to pay you the full rate and benefits, but you can be recognized. Part of the thinking there is, for instance, in the other state that starts with a C to the west of us, they have similar language that says if you're an apprentice, you're recognized as an apprentice for the rest of your career as you're working, right? So they can be counted towards the apprentice utilization in California. They have a much higher percentage. So I wanted to try this out. When I can tell you from my experience when I was still with the union, there was full employment for every apprentice we could find, and a lot of times we were unable to get apprentices for going out there. So this would help alleviate some of that. I don't think it'll take away from apprentices being utilized, and that's where the last part in is, nothing in this subsection shall be construed to require an apprenticeship program to provide journeyman worker in lieu of an apprentice. A couple of people said, you know, we don't like that, and I said, well, we'll make it an option. If your union doesn't want to do it, you don't have to, and the contractor would have to get a dispatch for that journeyman on that. Moving to the next page. So we're trying to get contractor, subcontractor, they have to be responsible under the system that we're going to have, because we're going to switch from on a job-by-job basis, the way it currently is, you have to try to meet that percentage per job. What this bill will do is change that you have to meet the percentage over all of your jobs over the course of a 12-month period. And then you'll have to put a report in, send a report in. How many hours did you have on vertical? How many hours did you have on horizontal? How many hours were performed by apprentices on vertical or horizontal? How close did you come to the percentage you were supposed to be required? So that would take care of some of the concerns that people had on, well, it's specialty work, it's some other issue or various things, or there's a safety issue. I can't really put somebody on this particular piece of work. This gives you a variety of different jobs. You can meet that goal by saying, I don't want to send somebody out if you're an operating engineer and the only work I have is, you know, primarily blade work. I don't want to put an apprentice on that. He has to go through some other training. So I can make up for where I didn't have him there. I can send him to another job. So you have to meet your goal or try to meet your goal over the course of the year. And you have to, the contractor is responsible for documenting his good faith efforts over the course of the year. Because you can get, if you made good faith efforts and you didn't meet your goal, as long as you tried, you still won't get penalized. So subsection 8 there, beginning in 2025, contractor or subcontractor has to turn in a report, and they have to turn it in by February 14th. So what happens, every month, people that are on public works jobs now have to turn in certified payroll reports. So they have those hours, they're gonna be able to do that. They just have to create an annual report. And the reason we picked February 15th, because that's give you a month and a half to do that. You should know how many hours you had in December. You have to turn it in by January 15th. And then you would have another full month in order to complete your report and turn it into the labor commissioner. And then it specified, the labor commissioner asked to say, labor commissioner will build this template and the report they're supposed to turn it in on, but we wanted to specify what information we wanted to require on there. That's A through F. And then G says, we don't want individual jobs and we don't want any individual employee information. We just want the total hours on all of your jobs in public work in the year to go forward there. And then section 9 talks about the labor commissioner on their own initiative or through internal investigation or based on a complaint, based on the information provided, subsection 8, will determine if their good faith effort was made or not, and if they determine that there was not, they'll provide a copy of that determination to the contractor that's deficient, and they can request a hearing to go forward before any of the penalties would kick in. Worked with the industry on the tiers. There's tiers on horizontal, and we did lower the if you hit 7.5% of the 10% you required, there would be a $2 penalty for every hour that you were below that, or $2,500, whichever is lower. We lowered that down from the $5,000 that it was in the other draft you had, because you made some good faith efforts. You've been trying, but if you just still didn't make it there and you don't have the good faith efforts, you weren't able to get an apprentice available on subsequent requests that would do that. And then on down for the percentages, if you have 4% but less than 7.5, and then less than 4%, the penalty increases as you go up. And then, let's see, you have the similar, so subsection 4 at the top of the third page, basically that's where the de minimis amount comes in. So if 10%, if you have 400 hours or less in the course of a year, then you wouldn't have to comply. That's where the less than 3 workers came in, so we still have a de minimis in there. So if you need an apprentice for more than 40 hours in the course of a year, you need to try to meet that, but the 4 is a de minimis. We have a very similar situation that laid out in B, and that's for horizontal work. The 3% requirement on that, and you can see in subsection 4, if the labor commissioner raises it up to the 5%, it would still have the de minimis there, but it would be at the higher percentage there. All complaints, labor commissioner wanted to have a time frame, so all complaints have to be put in before the last business day in May. So everybody is going to get the report in February. They're going to have 2 months plus to review the information, and if they have something, they can put the complaint in. The labor commissioner can go at any time, and it can be extended if the labor commissioner chooses to. Subsection 10 is an additional penalty to the $2, $4, or $6 for every hour you're short, and I know this is complicated. We spent a lot of time on this, sorry, and spent a lot of time trying to get this down to that. So number 10 will only kick in if contractor made no or very superficial good faith effort. If they didn't do any good faith effort at the end of the year, then they're going to get this penalties in section 10. And the labor commissioner gets an either or. They can either disqualify them for 180 days up to 2 years from public works, or they can give them the minimum penalty of $10,000 with a maximum up to $75,000, depending on how that calculation goes. It would only kick in, like I said, if you made no effort at all to utilize apprentices, or if you didn't turn in that report at the end of the year. We didn't want it to be just a cost of doing business and somebody said, oh, I didn't have my apprentices, I only had this much, and my $6 penalty is, $2,500. You have to try. If you don't want to try, we're going to hit you with a harder penalty. Subsection 11, if contractor may request a hearing, the determination, that's where we say if in 9 or 10, if the labor commissioner makes a determination, you have to request the hearing, and we have that language matched there. We want contractors in subsection 12 to make requests per job, so we want you to say you got to make a request. Number 12 is saying that it's bases off the language that says you have to sign an agreement. So the way it's set up, in order for the unions, because they're the only programs that are recognized by the state most of the time, so they have to, if they choose, to send apprentices to non-signatory employers. So when a non-signatory employer requests an apprentice, if the union dispatches one, the trust funds, and there's a form that's set up, has to have on record an agreement that says that employer will pay in the trust contributions for that apprentice on that job. Otherwise, we won't be able to do it. We wouldn't be in compliance with our ERISA trust funds without that. If you fail to sign that, it's not a good, it would not be deemed good faith. So this is just cleaning up the part is that you have to do one for each employee on each job unless you're already signatory, because we were getting a lot of contractors that were signatory to an agreement with us. They can call us anytime to get an apprentice. They're already obligated to pay the trust fund documents. We don't need to have that 3-page agreement on file for a signatory employer for that. We do have to have it for the non-signatory, so that was the clarification on that one. Section 13 keeps some of the same definitions that we had in there, and we added in subsection F what good faith is, and then what you have to do in order to do that. What happens if you call in and the union doesn't supply a person, when you have to request it, which is there in A sub 2, not less than 10 days before or 5 days after you start, and then if you stop and then start again, that's when you would start up. or once every 30 days if it's ongoing. So it's a 12-month-long period that you can meet your apprentice utilization goal for all of your public works jobs, horizontal and vertical. So if you call the union and say, the way it is now, if they call and they ask for somebody and the union can't supply, or the apprenticeship programs, not all union programs, the apprenticeship program can't supply someone, you have to then go and ask for a waiver because you tried, et cetera, et cetera. So we're trying to take the public bodies out of that. But if you call on a job that's going to go for 8 months, and you don't get somebody at the first shot, you got to keep requesting every 30 days because you have 12 months to try to meet your goal on all of your projects. So we don't want people to say, I tried once, and say, I'm done. And we talked with the people in the industry about how we were going to get that done. And then nothing in this says that the contractor doesn't have to document his ongoing efforts to do that. And then the last one there, the term does not include refusal of a contractor or subcontractor to enter into the apprenticeship agreement pursuant to subsection 12. So if you're a non-signatory employer, you have to enter into that agreement, and that's mirroring language that was up above that was struck out. And then this was asked by the AGC, and the last one on the last page was, we agree that we're going to coordinate with the employer, because a lot of times they'll call us, we don't have somebody right then, but we may have someone in another week or 10 days. So we have to coordinate with them to call them up and say, hey, we have somebody, when can we send them, rather than just sending them out and the contractor doesn't know. So I know that was very quick. I know there's a lot in there. I know what it says. So I was able to get through it quickly, and I apologize, but I'm trying to make the heart stop and have some people be able to testify, so happy to answer any questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for that, Senator. Members, any questions? And I also understand that there's some folk that are going to come up and have an opportunity to bring up some issues. But I do appreciate the fact that you've been working with a host of folk, and I know not everybody's there. But I do appreciate the fact that you've engaged in dialogue with a lot of folk, and obviously you see this firsthand, and you've had an opportunity. You're not just bringing some bill. So thank you. But members, with that, I think in the interest of time, what we can do is allow folk to bring their testimony both in support and opposition. And then Senator Daley, if we have to come back, that's fine. If we come back, and then we can further get into some questions after we hear both opposition and support. But that way we don't make everybody else come back. So let's do that. We will open it up for those wishing to testify in support of Senate Bill 82. Carson City or Las Vegas, and we'll start here in Carson City. Whoever wishes to go first.
Sure. Good afternoon, committee members, Chair Flores. My name is Bill Wellman, here today representing Las Vegas Paving, Nevada's largest contractor. First, I want to thank Senator Daley for bringing this forward. This bill I've been working on since 2011 to try to get this right. It's been much needed, as the current legislation of 2019 is just not working. It's extremely cumbersome, subjective in interpretation, monitoring of it, and frankly, the penalties themselves are subjective. And frankly, it's just not creating the apprentice utilization as desired. While not perfect, SB 82 here today will fix many of the issues currently being encountered, such as removing the third parties, as the senator talked about, the local entities, from doing the policing. That's where the subjectiveness normally comes in. It will likely reduce the number of waivers being requested, as there are certain projects we just cannot use apprentices on. They are unsafe, high-speed freeways such as that, and the way the legislation is today, it must be on every project for every trade. This helps fix this immensely. And it'll limit the need for exemptions for safety reasons, as I just spoke of. Thus, we ask that this committee support SB 82 as we do, allowing the industry to grow our workforces safely as each company being represented is best suited, therefore putting apprentices to work performing the most educating task, being safely managed while learning a potential lifelong trade. Thank you very much.
And thank you for joining us, please.
Thanks, Andy Donahue, Labor Employers Cooperation and Education Trust, joining that support for this bill. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us, please.
Hello again, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Jake McNeil, JAKMCNEILL, here again as a member of Labor's Local 169 and representing Labor's Local 169. We are also in support of the bill. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, please.
Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. Brian Reeder on behalf of the Nevada Contractors Association, representing the commercial construction industry in Southern Nevada. Just want to thank the bill sponsor for working with stakeholders and urge your support. Thanks.
Thank you for joining us. Seeing no other person coming up in support, BPS, do we have anybody wishing to join us over the phone?
If you would like to testify in support of SB 82, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue. The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to invite those wishing to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 82, excuse me. We'll start in Carson City, and then we'll go back to the phone. Good afternoon and welcome.
Thank you, Chair Flores and members of the committee. My name is Mac Bybee. I'm the president and CEO of the Associated Builders and Contractors, otherwise known as ABC. I want to thank Senator Daley for his willingness to meet with stakeholders and listen to our concerns. Unfortunately, we have come to a place where we simply have differing points of view. So I'll be speaking to the, not to the underlying bill, but to the amendment as I was involved in those conversations. My organization runs apprenticeship programs for open shop contractors. ABC's programs are state approved. They are federally recognized: electrical, plumbing, sheet metal, low voltage, carpentry, and operating engineers. This legislation that amends the Apprenticeship Utilization Act, I believe, is going to be counter to the purpose and intent of that bill to promote apprenticeship. So I'm going to talk about a couple points on here. One is the amendment as written completely ignores open shop apprenticeship. We go to the State Apprenticeship Council. All the programs have to be parallel. The wages are set by the Apprenticeship Council, but in the amended language, it talks about collective bargaining agreements. Our programs on the other side do not have collective bargaining agreements. Our contractors have to sign an apprenticeship agreement that makes them agree to utilize our curriculum, on-the-job training hours. The apprentices need to go to class, that they're getting the training that they need. I also want to touch on the bill allowing journey workers to qualify as apprentices. Journey workers are graduates of apprenticeship classes. That is a skill set of a craft professional. They are not learning the trade anymore. They could move up to, say, a master in their craft, like a master electrician, but they're graduates. If the intent of the Utilization Act was to promote apprenticeship, allowing for journey workers to be dispatched from the union hall is counter to that. But secondly, with the way the language is written, that journey worker could possibly displace an open shop journey worker because the CBA, the way the bill is written, that journey worker qualifies for the apprenticeship, whereas the open shop would not. But despite that disparity, we don't believe that journey workers should be eligible for apprenticeship designation, because that is two very different skill sets. We also have concerns with the good faith requirement. We believe that it will lead to litigation. I know there's 2 minutes. I'll speed up.
Yeah, unfortunately, we are at the 2 minutes, but we may have a question for you that could help give you some additional time. Members, any questions? Seeing none, if I could ask for two favors.
Sure.
First, if you can provide that testimony and your points to our committee staff so that we can all get them. And second, I know you've had an opportunity to speak at length with Senator Daley. If I could have you sit back for now and then see if we have some additional time where we could loop right back around. We're right at 4:37, so we might not be there, but if we could just have you sit back for a second, maybe we can bring you back up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Please.
Greg Esposito, representing the Nevada State Pipe Trades. The only reason we're here in opposition is because of the rules of this body. If you oppose to even the smallest parts of the bill, you have to sit in opposition. Those two parts are found in sections 3 and 5. Many of you were in this building when the original bill was passed in 2019, and to disagree with my associate, Mr. Wellman, this bill has been working great. Since 2019, I have sat in on a lot of ceremonies where large apprenticeship classes have taken in people who are now starting their careers. It's working very well for the people of this state. And so it's a bit odd to sort of limit the effectiveness of what the law can do. Right now, if the Labor Commissioner and the State Apprenticeship Council together decide that they feel it's appropriate to increase the percentage of apprentices on vertical construction, they can. As amended, this bill would eliminate the ability for those two bodies to get together and decide that more opportunities, more career starts should be happening. And it makes no sense. Why would we want to limit that now at a time when apprenticeships and career training is sort of a big push? So the deletion in Section 3 just makes no sense. And it sort of goes along with what's going on in Section 5. I understand the intent, but for you to consider a journeyman and apprentice for the sake of this measure for 3 years completely subverts the intent of what the original bill was, which was to create opportunities, create career opportunities. Now, I understand that it's permissive and a union and a contractor would have to agree to not bring on more apprentices, but why would we allow that? The point 4 years ago was to create more career opportunities. Senator Daley brought up what happens in California. That's because they have qualified worker language, where 50% of the workers on a public works project have to be either an apprentice or a graduate of an apprenticeship program, which is probably why they consider journeyman and apprentice for a longer period of time. So we oppose the two parts of this bill. We support everything else. Really appreciate the center. We oppose the two parts of this bill that limit future involvement of apprentices in the trades. Thank you.
Thank you. Please.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Paul Marakin with the Vegas Chamber. In regards to SB 82, the Chamber has two specific components to the bill that we have concerns on behalf of our members. One was a journeyman workforce development piece with apprentice component, and then the definition of good faith, which is, I believe, the proposed amendment from Senator Daley. Those are two pieces of concern from the Chamber of Commerce today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 82? Seeing none, next we'll go to the phone. Anyone wishing to testify in opposition over the phone?
If you would like to testify in opposition to SB 82, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you. Lastly, we will go to those wishing to testify in the neutral position, Carson City or Las Vegas. And we'll start here in Carson City, and then we'll make our way back to Las Vegas. Good afternoon. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Thank you. My name is Alexis Motorex with the Nevada Chapter Associated General Contractors, representing commercial construction in Northern Nevada. We are comprised of both signatory and open shop member companies. Currently, we are neutral on SB 82, and I want to start by thanking Senator Daley for working with all stakeholders during the interim and throughout the session to date on fixing the Apprenticeship Utilization Act. Even as it's presented today, it's miles better than what is currently in statute. While we feel we're about 90% there, we can't quite support the bill yet. There's still a couple of areas of concern and language we believe could be clarified. We're eager to see LCP version of the amended bill, as many of our issues may be resolved. If not, we are confident they will find resolution in the coming weeks. We look forward to continuing to work with the sponsor, other industry representatives, labor, and public entities to refine the language. And further, we look forward to a new and improved Apprenticeship Utilization Act that is simplified and streamlined while still achieving the underlying goal of training the next generation of construction tradesmen and women.
And thank you for joining us. Please.
Good afternoon, Chairman Flores and Vice Chair Orenshaw and the members of the committee. My name is Sarah Collins. I'm with I3 Public Affairs, representing National Electrical Contractor Association of Northern Nevada. I will get that right one of these days. NECRNUF. And we are neutral on this bill. We appreciate working with the bill sponsor to help craft this bill that works for our client. We feel like the intent is positive as it expands our state's apprenticeship program and aids workforce development in the electric trades. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Is there anybody else wishing to testify here in Carson City? Seeing none, we'll go to the neutral position in Las Vegas.
Good afternoon, Chair. Thank you, Brett Harris, Nevada Labor Commissioner. For the record, we have a fiscal note on this bill, so we just wanted to be present to answer any questions.
And thank you for joining us. I don't believe the members have any questions for you, but thank you, Commissioner, for joining us as always.
Thank you.
One day we're going to ask you a question, just to throw you off.
I've had a couple. So usually the assembly keeps me on my toes.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
We'll go to the phone. Anybody wishing to testify in the neutral position for Senate Bill 82?
If you would like to testify in neutral for SB 82, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
And thank you for joining us. With that, Senator Daley, if you could please come back and maybe just address some of the concerns raised during the opposition. Obviously, I understand there's a difference of opinion, but if you could address some of those for the body, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, Skip Daly, representing Senate District 13. And we've been working back and forth. I tried to address as many issues that were brought up as I could for 2 months, right? So here we are. We're going to have another get-together after this hearing, but I got to a point where I said, let's just have the hearing, and then we'll go back and we'll come with a final version. On some of the issues that Mr. Bybee had, we have a difference of opinion, and I don't know that we're going to get those resolved. We'll try. And then on the ones where Mr. Esposito came up and had some of his questions, I tried to answer him. A lot of the language that's in number 5 there is at his request, and I understand about the not being able to increase if people wanted to on vertical construction. We'll take a look at that on that. But I don't agree that it's going to take people out of the trade. And different programs are different. Not everybody's apprenticeship program is exactly the same. So this just gives some flexibility. If your program doesn't want to allow a signatory contractor to meet his goal by sending a graduate out, we also have some things that happen where, I don't want to have a small crew and a small company, have a guy graduate, and then he gets laid off. And that's part of the reason we have this expansion. So we're going to work with them, and we'll go from there. I heard the bell, so off we go.
And I do know that you've been working at length with a lot of folks. I appreciate that, Senator Daley. And I think this is the first time you're in this room where you didn't have 1,000 people in opposition and just you by yourself presenting a bill. So I appreciate that. And to the folk that have some opposition, obviously at some point you're going to reach a point where you're not going to find that middle ground. But to the extent we can continue working together, please continue to reach out to Senator Daley, and we're with you on trying to get it as close to the middle as possible. So again, thank you all for working with Senator Daley, and we'll continue working on the bill, and then we'll regroup. With that, we'll go ahead and close out the hearing on Senate Bill 82. We were just summoned to the floor, but we may not have anybody for public comment, and there may be an opportunity to close out the meeting. So at this point, I'd like to invite those wishing to participate for public comment to please join us. Is there anybody wishing to testify in public comment? Carson City or Las Vegas? Seeing none. BPS, do we have anybody wishing to join us over the phone?
Is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you. We don't have any public comment. Lay of the land for the rest of the week. I anticipate having long hearings on Wednesday. Same thing for Friday. So I just want to make sure everybody's aware that we will be here both of those days. And I appreciate the committee working with everybody to not force our team to come back after the remarks by our senator. With that, this meeting's adjourned.